Hello and welcome to the Tech Lunch Podcast, where we encourage our listeners to learn something new about tech every week. This can range from learning about new and exciting applications to the advancements in coding and technology. If you are always learning, you will always be a step above the rest. Take the time during lunch or during a break to listen and learn, kind of like a lunch and learn, but for the ears. This podcast will open the listeners' ears to new and exciting technologies they may have not been purviewed to in the past. These topics will range from manufacturing technologies to data collection technologies and everything in between. Hello, I'm Nick.
Hello, I'm Ed.
And this week we're going to talk about user acceptance testing, or known as UATs. I know from the IT standpoint, a UAT is the point in time of an application development lifecycle that I bring the users into a room, or I send the users the application and I say, here, do me a favor, test this, tell me what your experiences are, let me know if you have any faults, errors, anything of the imagination, and report back and tell me what it is. Most of the time, that test, if it's done in a room, is very structured. Every user has a copy of the test plan, the test steps, and you follow it from point A to Z, testing every single requirement in between. So that goes back to requirements gathering. That even doing a UAT, your requirements that you've gathered before are still very prevalent. And, when you start talking about, why the prevalency is there, it's because, the applications that we build are for users. The users have to use them at the end of the game, or we're just wasting our time, money, and efforts. And the other thing is like, also, that when you start building an application doing UAT, if every user is not using the same hardware, so you got somebody using a Lenovo, somebody using an HP, somebody using a Dell, that means that takes your software and tests all the different hardware variants that you have inside your office space and makes the software hardware agnostic, meaning that you're doing all of your testing based off of the user experience and not the hardware specific interface. So, when you start thinking about that, and we'll think about this. How does a UAT test work, or UAT, work in the OT environment when you're talking about, user acceptance type of stuff?
So from a OT environment, what we're talking about in most cases where we say a human is interfacing with some type of technology that involves a production process, you will be dealing with things like an HMI. And with an HMI, where a UAT test or UAT would come into play, or how it could be leveraged, we would use that when we said, hey, I have this design, I've made this GUI or this visualization, and the person goes to the visualization and he clicks on something on this visualization, and when it opens, it doesn't directly open to say the thing that he was looking for. He has to go through 1,000 tabs. So what happens is a person loses interest really quick if they have to do too many steps.
Right, exactly.
So these are things that you would want to know when you're developing an HMI or some type of visualization where a human has to interface or do something. Also, you want the human to not think.
Right.
An HMI is not for the guy to go figure out Sudoku. What's the next number?
Right,
the guy
exactly.
should be going there, or the person should be going there and saying, hey, I clicked this point, it expanded this point, I got the data I need, okay. Or I have an alarming system. Mm-hmm. One of my pet peeves with alarming systems is you have an indication that there's something wrong. You click on the box. Why should a human have to click on the box? If it's something wrong, the tab should automatically open and be there where the person can see the information in real time.
Right. Tell me what's wrong with it.
Tell me what's wrong with you. Why do I have to go dig through 100 tabs or expand you? Why doesn't it expand the tree automatically?
Right.
These are things I think you could use with UAT.
Yeah, like if the alarm is activated, open up tab.
Right.
Something simple like that. But if you think about it, some of our listeners may be, web developers for a consumer, organization, right? So then you can go into your consumer testing. If you really want to start diving into, how do I leverage my users? Your users may not be office personnel. You may not be personnel that works on the shop floor. You may be, consumer Joe that, orders off of XYZ.com. You never know. You never know where it's coming from. You could be, some of our listeners who are global reach, individuals, and, like what I've seen in some of our stuff, France and some other places. Those individuals, if they're dealing with somebody who's in the U.S. or something like that, and that's when you start dealing with translation issues. Something's written for a native language, the translation may be wrong. So that's kind of when you can go to your users and say, hey, guess what? I understand you're a consumer. If you're a consumer, can you please do me a favor and do some testing for me? Let me know what you think. And let's provide you, let's say, a discount or something like that based on your experience. Tell me what's wrong with it. You can use that to build upon another sprint planning if you're looking at the Scrum environment. I could be, thinking outside the box, too far outside the box. But, especially when we start talking about, translation things, working within a, German organization, we kind of see when things are completely wrong, in the translation world. And then, multilingual, environment, you start noticing, okay, cool, that's wrong. So you report back saying, hey, guess what, you messed this one up, and, let me, tell you how to update it. That for me is a consumer level, testing where it's not technically a user.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, Nick, because most people that speak multiple languages, they know grammar, they don't know jargon.
Right, exactly.
And to understand jargon, you have to talk with somebody from that particular region to understand the difference between tomatoes and tomatoes. But let's go a little further, and let me just build upon what you said in the beginning when we were talking about having people do testing. Mm-hmm. I'll give an example using the model for UAT. So when we start talking analytics of requirements, what that means from an OT perspective, there is a problem that exists. An engineer investigates this problem and say, hey, I got an idea. I think this will resolve the issue. Okay, then the engineer has to create a plan. So you have a plan that you have to create. Yeah. So this plan will basically explain the framework. Why
do we change need request.
This? Okay, then we would identify different scenarios that we say, hey, if we test this and this, I'm pretty sure that this will fix it. So before I say 100% that this is what we're going to need, I'm going to do a few tests. I'm going to do some simulations. I'm going to open up a virtual machine and do a few things and see if it actually does what
throw in the test plan and go from there.
Then I want to go to the creation of the test case. Mm-hmm. We want to make the UAT test case. So then I want to say, hey, I don't want to just give this to a technician and say it works.
Right.
I want the technician's input. So I'm going to make a questionnaire and have the technician look over the questionnaire and see if there's anything that's out of place. Or I'm going to sit down and explain or whiteboard this and explain to the technician, this is what I'm trying to do. Do you see anything that I'm missing?
Right.
Is it anything that I can do to make it better? Is it anything that I can do to make your job easier? That's the next step.
Exactly.
Then we want to go into our test data preparation. Well, we're making it more official. We got the input. We're putting it in place. Mm-hmm. Hey, this is what it is. This is our plan. Here's our action plan.
Okay.
Next, we got an action plan. Let's run it. Let's put it in production. Let's see what's happening. Like the dynamite. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Then once we've done that, and we know that we have found most of the our functionality works like we want to, we have not identified any bugs, we have not come across any issues, we have not affected the process, we've fixed the problem, we've recovered some takt time, we've reduced some downtime, we have made we've added value to the company.
Yeah.
Now we want to confirm our business objective and present it to management and say, bam. That would be UAT in an OT environment.
And the thing is, in the IT environment, that would work the same way, or work in a version thereof. Everything requires a test plan. Everything. How am I going to accomplish this? Who are my actors, and how does that go? However, this is kind of where I'm going to play the fun devil's advocate. Most people don't understand that you're always doing a UAT. Always. And the thing is, and I say that because you bought a new laptop, in recent years. What's the first thing you do with that?
Well, when you first open it, you either it requests you to set up some account,
right?
And then once you set up the account, you start playing around with it to see what it can do.
Exactly, that's what you just did.
Yeah,
you did a UAT on a laptop you never knew you had,
right?
Because the thing is what you're going to do with it. You're going to mess with it up until the point that that your return time expires. Mm-hmm. You're going to find out by opening that laptop up or desktop up and playing with the games and playing with Microsoft Word and all the other stuff that people put on laptops these days. You're going to play with that up until the time that you can no longer return that device back to the store that you bought it from. So you did a UAT the entire time. And and how most people know, it's the email that you send after the return time to Microsoft that says, "Hey, guess what? This is messed up." And you're always doing a UAT.
Right.
And most people don't understand that. And now that's kind of what we want to get out there is, don't think that UAT is just for an office environment. No, it's for everybody. You can ask your customers to do it. You yourself can do it. If you really want to on somebody else's gear. Never UAT test your own code. Mm-hmm. For the love of God, don't do that. Mm-hmm. But the thing is play with it long enough that you miss the return deadline, then you write the email at the end. If you think about it, that's how Microsoft found 95% of their bugs. It's like I use Linux, for instance. So, if something crashes, this is, hey, do you want to send a bug report? Okay. Guess what? For the past year, I've been doing a UAT test and didn't even know it. Long term.
Right. Well, I will say this is, to me, the most important lesson I learned over my career in industrial control systems. You have to involve the user because you will miss things that they will find.
Oh, yeah.
Because the person that's the expert on a machine is the operator.
Right.
The operator is there 8 hours or 10 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, throughout the whole year.
Right.
He is seeing things, or they are seeing things that we cannot see. However, there is a solution. Industry 4.0, and we'll keep saying it till you get tired of hearing it. We're going to keep preaching Industry 4.0. When you leverage Industry 4.0 and you leverage MQTT, Industrial Internet of Things, and you start using unified namespaces where you populate to there and you only pull the data that you need. It's not a polling system. Is that value there? Mm-hmm. If that value is there, go check.
Right.
If that value is there. So read, write.
Yeah.
It's access of data. With access of data and understanding from the user in the beginning and over the life cycle of that product.
Yeah.
And over the life cycle of that product, which is important. Mm-hmm. We don't just deploy and leave. We deploy and develop for the next cycle.
Yeah, or deploy and learn.
So yes, learn. So you want to leverage machine learning, and the reason you want to leverage machine learning, I'm not trying to take a machine and replace a human. I am trying to take a machine and allow a human to use those things that are intrinsically human. I would much rather a human do mundane things. Excuse me, I would much rather a machine do mundane things and have a human actually go and say, you know what? I didn't think about that before. But now we can do this. Mm-hmm. Then the human can input that back to the person or the group. Hey, we can make an algorithm.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, this algorithm can be, leveraged over, software as a system.
Yep.
hey, we can reduce this and save costs. Now it's more money for development. More money for development means innovation.
Right. And if you change a GUI on anything, you should have a UAT. If you develop a new system, out of the box, or even just an assisted system based off on a system that you already have, do a UAT. It's not just made for, say, version 1.0 of your deployment. It's, version everything. You should always do a UAT, from version 1 to version 10 to the end of your, software lifecycle. You should also, the thing is UATs are also a great place to gather more requirements. Because you may think you have it right now, but, there's a good about 50% that you don't. Because as you do this UAT test, you're pulling in requirements that, you should have done this. You should have done that. You should have done this. But, if you are in an agile environment using the Scrum methodology, as you would deploy that release, they would test it, tell you what you need to change. The next iteration of that release, your next sprint, you're adding those requirements back into your additional sprints, and off you go to, improve your product over time, meaning now you have more and more UATs. However, those UATs are more and more meaningful as your requirements increase. However, this tells me this is if you're going to collect requirements from UATs, add them to your requirements traceability matrix. Add them to your document where you can record those and tie them back to a functionality in the system. So when you do local testing, prior to release, so when you do integration testing and stuff like that, you can test those requirements to make sure they're met before you send it to the UAT, and the UAT finds the same problems again. Because there's nothing more aggravating than in a UAT finding the same bug over and over and over again and realize requirements aren't met. So, I don't know if that's the same issue that you guys have the OT environment where, you possibly go to a vendor and say, hey, fix this, fix that, and just some things just don't happen. Or you kind of just find the same one where it's just, a hidden bug.
So the big thing that I've seen over my 25 plus years in industrial control systems is that we are about the same as the infrastructure of the country. So the infrastructure of the country is about 40 years of technologies that's running that shouldn't be running. Well, most infrastructures inside of a industrial control system that hasn't been commissioned pre-2020, normally those systems exist for 15 years. Normally like a body shop is about 7 years. A paint department is probably 15. Assembly is a little bit different. But normally the lifespan of a automotive manufacturer is going to be 25, 30, maybe more than that.
Yeah.
So if there is something that you didn't use this concept, if you use the waterfall method, and we're not agile, it's hard to change things in the industrial control systems, in the OT and operational technology. It's hard. So that's why you have to do your due diligence, and you have to insist on having these measures in place. Yeah, because it will save the company money in the long run.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you think about it, you talk about waterfall versus agile versus increasing change and stuff like that. The manufacturing world is a notorious waterfall mentality. If you think about it, it's always going to be waterfall. Always. I've been doing this for, 60 plus years. I'm going to use the same technology used 60 years ago. Yeah, we know. Because it don't work no more. Kind of improve this. But, it also goes back to the suppliers. It's like, if you know your stuff's broken, you know you have bugs, don't turn them into features, because the definition of a feature or a hidden feature is a bug that's been left alone long enough inside the software that it becomes an impediment to somebody doing their job, but now they find a way around it. It's considered a feature. So, use the UAT fashion when you're installing new cells, lines, and areas to get rid of some of those unwanted features. Document your unwanted features and make sure they don't actually, answer the mail on some of your requirements. Because I couldn't tell you the amount of time, in my career in IT that I have been involved in the UAT and have had to report the same fault on the same piece of gear every time that it became a feature. Eventually, I wrote a requirement for it. The thing's so broken that it requires a feature to be written for it. So fix it, get rid of it. Don't keep playing with it. So that's just my rant on stop living in the Stone Age and move from Waterfall to Agile. And start, realizing that we need UATs, on this gear that we have in the OT world. And that we need UATs on the manufacturing systems to better those systems now so we're not waiting on it later.
Yeah, and I think that responsibility lies on the shoulder of the engineers.
Right.
Why I say that is a manager relies on his technical experts.
Right.
So if the technical expert cannot confidently, express what's going on, then why should I spend X amount of dollars?
Yeah.
So you're right, Nick. We should do a better job. It's on us to do a better job to communicate and express the importance of UAT.
Yeah.
In any time that we're not just software, hardware.
Right, exactly.
That the software is running on.
Yeah, make it agnostic.
Yeah, we should be pushing these topics.
Yeah. And that's something, that we need to get to is, UATs and hardware agnostic testing and stuff like that, where we realize that, everything is not built for the same equipment. We know that. We know how it works. Not everything's not made for the same process. That goes for IT stuff too. Not everything that we build will answer the mail for every single process that we have set forth. We know that. And we are very well aware of that. But that's also where the UAT and Agile comes up in path, because test this, tell me where I'm at, tell me if I'm missing anything so I can roll it back to my requirements so we can attack it on another sprint. And for us, that helps out the IT world in so many occasions. And if the people who are tuning in, if you haven't gone to that Agile approach yet, go ahead and try it. Hit the UAT world and build on your requirements. It's a great way. It's a gateway to requirements gathering in a way that you didn't think you'd ever have it, if you think about it. So that kind of ends my spiel. I'll turn it over to Ed for our parting shots here, and kind of see what he thinks. But from me, I just want to say thank you. I've looked at the viewership lately, and I noticed that we're being listened to across the world, and I highly appreciate that. I never thought that us just sitting here running our mouths about stuff that we love and we enjoy would make it that far, or at least make it past the area that we're in. And we thank you, a heartfelt thank you to everybody. It means more than and hopefully you guys keep listening, and hopefully y'all just keep subscribe and stay with us. We want to make this thing go far and help everybody out. So, but at that, I'm going to turn it over to Ed for our parting shots and kind of give the charge for the week. Go ahead, Ed.
So, what I would like to leave you with, guys, is simply this: if you are a IT developer and you're creating these, say you're creating a SharePoint that was requested by OT, the Industrial Control System side. you should ask questions first. But before a developer sits down and write one line of code, he should find out the scope. What do you need? Does this already exist? Why do we need this feature? And it's not that you're questioning, you're asking questions. Mm-hmm. You need data. Data so you can ask the right questions and get the right answer so that you give the customer or the stakeholder what he wants. And then you get feedback on how you can make it better. So I would also like to say that I appreciate everything that you guys are doing for us. I appreciate everybody that subscribed. I appreciate anybody that's commented. And I would just like to say from myself and Nick, we're got some other things coming. We're working on other things to make the channel better. We would love to get input from you guys. I mean, tell us, is it any topic you're interested in? Yeah. If it's something we haven't touched on that you would like us to cover, is it a topic you want us to rehash? Let us know.
Yeah, and then, on that, you can go ahead and email us at, podcast@vulcanara.com, and we'll be more than happy to see that. It's Vulcanara Technology Solutions on, on most social medias, and also Tech at Lunch Podcast on Instagram. So, find us, send us something, let us know you're thinking about it. Comment on some of the podcasts that you like and let us know that you're there. But we highly appreciate it, and for me, that'll do it for tonight, and I highly appreciate it. It's seeing this thing expand more and more and more, globally and, different countries of the world, that hopefully one day, I don't know, maybe we get to visit and, sit down with some of y'all and, and kind of see about your tech journey. Hopefully we can make that happen. That's definitely the goal in the long run. But, for me, I say, I'll say thank you.
And thank you guys for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Tech at Lunch podcast, where we hope you learned something about tech during your break or during your lunchtime. If you did, please give us a follow to prevent missing future episodes. If you have any ideas or something you want to hear or learn about, please send us a show idea to podcast@vulcanara.com. Hope you have a good rest of the day and continue learning.